Alright mates, how's it going? In today's video, Chapter 3 of Rise of the Horde by Christy Golden. Bloody long one today, so let's just go! The Draenei City was absolutely amazing. 'Twas a union of stone and metal, of nature and ingenuity. Durotan had no idea what he was seeing, but he knew it was magnificent. And as he looked over to Orgrim, he could tell his friend felt exactly the same way. You are welcome here, Durotan and Orgrim. Restalan then led them forward, and as they walked the streets, the two orcs continued to soak in all the sights. There were gleaming gems everywhere, and a buttload of some strange metal that Durotan had never seen before. What is your city made of? Many things. We are travellers, fairly new to your world. New? It was over 200 summers ago that your people came here. We were not as we are now. No, you're not. We have watched the orcs grow in strength and skill and talent. You've impressed us. Durotan knew it was meant as a compliment, but somehow the comment stung, as if the Draenei thought they were better than the orcs. But the thought was fleeting, and was gone just as soon as it had popped in his head. To be fair, looking around at the wonders of this city, perhaps they were slightly better. To answer your question, Orgrim, when we arrived here, we utilised everything we'd brought with us. I know your people build boats to travel the rivers and the lakes. Well, we came on a boat that could travel in the sky. It was made of metal, and other things. Once we realised that this was to be our home, we took part of the boat and used it in our architecture. Pfft, what a load of bollocks. Metal can't float. So one would think. But one would also think it not possible to summon the elements to fight, if one did not know better. That's different. That's magic. Well, so is this. Sort of. Restalan then beckoned to one of his men, said some more hibbledy-jibbledy, and the other Draenei nodded and hurried away. There is someone I'd like you to meet, if he's not too busy. They then passed through some more streets, and at one point, Durotan saw a female who seemed about their age. As she met his gaze, she initially seemed a bit startled, but then just smiled and ducked her head shyly, and Durotan found himself smiling back. In our encampment you'd find many children. Where are the Draenei children? Our people are very long-lived, so we do not often have children. How long-lived? Very. Suffice it to say that I remember our arrival here. It was at that point that Durotan realised the young-seeming female he'd just kinda eye-flirted with was probably as old as the hills. The scout that Restalan had dispatched then returned and spoke quickly, and Restalan looked pleased with whatever the scout had said. Our prophet, the one who brought us to this world, Velen, has agreed to meet you. You are to dine with him and sleep in the Magister's house. That is a very high honour indeed. That took both orcs by surprise. Dinner with the leader of all Draenei? What the bloody hell had they gotten themselves into? But the two orcs followed Restalan dutifully, as he led them the rest of the way, until eventually they arrived at the Magister's house and were shown to their room. 'Twas an odd room. Fruits sat in a bowl ready for consumption, strange clothes were set out for them to wear, and a tub of water steamed in the centre. That water is too hot to drink and is too much for steeping leaves. It is for bathing. Bathing? To wash the dirt from one's body. We do not bathe. You do not need to do anything you feel uncomfortable with. The bath, the food, the clothes are here for your pleasure. Prophet Velen will expect to see you in an hour. I will come for you then. Is there anything you need? Both orcs shook their heads, so Restalan nodded, and then left. Do you think we're in danger? No, but I feel like I'm in a cave. I'd rather be in a tent. Me too. Durotan then pointed towards the mysterious tub for bathing. Do you want to try it? No. Both orcs laughed, but they did eventually splash their faces with the warm water, and kinda enjoyed it more than they thought they would. They ate the fruit, donned the clothing that had been laid out for them, had a bit of a challenge to see who could bend the leg of a metal chair before feeling a bit guilty about how they'd broken a chair, until eventually Restalan came a-knocking. The prophet is ready. What the hell happened to that chair? The first thing Durotan thought as he saw Velen was, bloody hell he's old, and tall. Welcome. I am Velen. I'm glad that my people found you today. The elder Draenei then waved them to sit, and so they did. A giant feast was laid at the table, and throughout the meal, Velen was an excellent host. He asked questions and seemed genuinely interested in the responses. How old would the boys be before they could hunt? Choose a mate? What was their favourite thing to eat? What was their favourite weapon? When my father passes, I will inherit the Doomhammer. It is an old and honourable weapon passed down from father to eldest child. You will swing it well, Orgrim, but I trust that it will be many years before you take on the name of Doomhammer. The fact that his dad would have to die before he became Orgrim Doomhammer seemed to have momentarily escaped the young orc, and the revelation caused him to abruptly grow solemn.
Describe the hammer to me. It must be a mighty weapon. Oh, it's enormous. The stone is black and blunt and powerful. The shaft is made of carefully crafted wood. I mean, the shaft has needed some repairs over the years, but the stone, not a chip on it. It's called the Doomhammer because when its owner takes it into battle, it spells doom for the enemy.
I see.
But there is another prophecy. It is said that the last of the Doomhammer line will use it to bring first salvation, and then doom to the Orc people. Then it will pass into the hands of one who is not of the Blackrock clan, and it will once again be used in the cause of justice. That is a powerful prophecy.
Orgrim continued to enthusiastically talk about the Doomhammer, but Durotan wasn't listening. He'd seen the weapon before. And he was more curious about this Velen bloke anyway. Why was this being so interested in them? Durotan had been a sensitive boy. He knew it. His parents had been kind of concerned about it at one point. But Mother Kashur had just scoffed at them and said leave the boy to his fate. But Durotan knew feigned interest when he saw it. And Velen was not faking interest. His eyes were bright and focused. His questions were sincere. He wanted to hear about the orcs. And yet, the more he heard, the sadder he seemed to become.
Can you tell us of your people, Prophet? We know so little. In the last few hours, I've learned more than any of my people have in the last 100 years. The Draenei have never withheld information, young Durotan. I believe you may just be the first who's asked. What do you wish to know? Well, Retzalan said you came here in a great vessel that can travel the skies. Tell me more of this.
Okay. To begin with, Draenei is not our true name. It's a term that means exiled ones. We disagreed with others in our world. We chose not to sell our people into slavery, and for that we were exiled. We spent much time finding a suitable place to dwell, a place to call our own. We fell in love with this land, and we call it Draenor. Durotan nodded. He'd heard that term before. It was nice. The orcs didn't really have a name for the place. They just called it World.
It is our term. We're not so arrogant that we believe the orcs would use it as well. But such we have dubbed it, and we love Draenor deeply. It is a beautiful world, and we have seen many.
You've seen other worlds?
Indeed we have, and we have met many people.
People like the orcs?
There is no one like the orcs. You are unique in our travels. But yes, we had been travelling for some time before we found this land.
Durotan burned to ask more questions, like how long were they travelling and what their homeland had been like, etc. But there was something in Velen's face that said, yeah, I invited you to inquire, but I'm not a big fan of telling this story. So instead, he asked them about their magic.
Our magic comes from the earth, from the shaman and the ancestors. Our magic comes from a different source. I'm not sure you'll understand it.
We're not stupid.
Forgive me, I didn't mean to imply that. Your people are wise and you two are obviously bright, but I'm just not sure I have the words in your language.
Velen was probably right. Durotan had no doubt in his mind that there wasn't a living orc that could grasp all of this in a single evening. Maybe Mother Kashur. The conversation then turned to more mundane topics, mostly just Draenei geography. There was a sacred place nearby called Arkandun where the dead were laid to rest. Velen normally resided in a place called the Temple of Karabor, and there were quite a few Draenei towns, but the largest one was called Shatrath. And then, the meal was over. The food was finished, and Velen sighed and got to his feet.
You will excuse me. It's been a long day and I must meditate before I sleep. It has been an honour to meet you, Durotan and Orgrim. I trust we will meet again, young ones. Good night.
Meanwhile, in the lands of the Frostwolf clan, Mother Kashur was fast asleep in her tent, dreaming about being not old and stuff. But a voice she recognised called out to her.
Bring him!
'Twas the voice of a man known as Talkra in life. He'd been dead a long time, but that didn't stop orcs from pestering their shaman descendants in the middle of dreams.
You received the message?
He and the Blackrock boy are with the Draenei. They will be safe. I can feel it.
Yeah, they'll be safe. Bring him!
He will come to the mountain in a few months, when the trees shed their leaves to sleep. So yes, I will bring him.
No! Bring him to us! Bring him to the caverns of Oshagoon! I would look upon him there.
You wish me to take him to meet the ancestors?
Is that not what I just said? Foolish girl! Bah! What has happened to the shaman these days?
Talkra then yelled for what felt like half an hour about how in his day, shaman were better and like these bloody whippersnappers nowadays, whilst Kashur just kind of stood there in stunned silence. It wasn't unheard of for the ancestors to want to meet a particular child. Usually meant they were destined for the shamanic path. But she'd never really considered Durotan for that. It was rare for a shaman to lead a clan. There would be too much pulling him in each direction for him to be an effective leader. To listen to and honour the spirits whilst also guiding one's people would require a very remarkable orc indeed.
You're not even bloody listening to me, are you?
I will bring him on his initiation day.
Finally. Don't fail me, you bitch.
Gashur then opened her eyes. Although that last thing Talcrar had said was just plain rude and unnecessary, she would do what she was told. And we're leaving it there! Oh shit, I forgot to write an outro. Just pretend I made an outro, where I've said outro things, alright? As usual, links in the description for the book, my Patreon page, my Discord, all of that stuff. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, all of that stuff. And all that's left to say is, thanks for watching, and see ya!